Hello friends, welcome to the session on social exclusion and its consequences. Social exclusion can be described as a process by which certain groups are systematically disadvantaged because of their ethnicity, race, color, religion, gender, caste, age, disability, health, migrant status, the place of origin, or the place of residence. Socially excluded groups face particular discrimination in gaining access to resources. Because social exclusion locks people out of the benefits of development, denying them opportunities, choices, and a voice to claim their rights, it causes greater levels of variance in the society. Sometimes exclusion is deliberate and explicit. For example, when people from a certain social background are denied access to a particular facility. Sometimes it can be implicit and unintentional. It could be due to people adhering to ingrained norms and values and established forms of social interaction. Social exclusion is not a situation where a particular individual ill-treats another person. Instead, the social process is self-discriminatory in its principles and practice. Discrimination is perceived to take place as a form of social exclusion both in public institutions and in social institutions. Social exclusion takes the form of segregation from the social, political, economic, cultural, educational, and gender domains of the society. It imbues a sense of superiority or inferiority and often manifests itself in a system of domination and subjugation. How do people get socially excluded? People are excluded by institutions and behavior that reflect, enforce, and reproduce prevailing social attitudes and values, particularly those of powerful groups in society. Sometimes this is open and deliberate, such as when state institutions deliberately discriminate in their laws, policies, or programs. More often, institutions perpetuate exclusion unofficially. Public sector workers who reflect the prejudices of their society may institutionalize some kinds of discrimination. In many Indian schools, for example, teachers expect lower caste children to do menial tasks such as cleaning the classrooms. The exclusion discourse in India is best understood against the backdrop of its caste system. The concept of social exclusion dates back more than 3 millennia, enforced by the Hindu caste system. Exclusion was enforced primarily by the traditional caste-based social order until the constitution came into force in 1950. However, the state of affairs in India with regard to inequality and social exclusion is somewhat paradoxical. On one hand, India has demonstrated its political willingness to recognize different forms of inequality and exclusion and to use constitutional methods and legislative measures to address them, especially since independence. On the other hand, there continue to be large disparities in poverty levels, mortality rates, educational attainments, and access to resources among regions, religious and social groups. Exclusion is frequently more subtle and unintentional. For example, disabled people are excluded from services, markets, and political participation through lack of awareness of their needs or by social attitudes. It could also be when minority groups are excluded because of language barriers. The resulting sense of powerlessness due to exclusion can rob people of their self-confidence and aspirations, and their ability to challenge exclusion. Another aspect of exclusion is disadvantage on the basis not of who you are but where you live, known as spatial exclusion. People who live in remote and isolated areas may be prevented from fully participating in national, economic and social life. People from the wrong part of town can find it harder to get a job because of the social stigma that can be attached to the places of the poor. The German sociologist Max Weber provided a perspective on social stratification that emphasized the enduring importance of status groups within capitalist societies, that is, the communities that enjoy different amounts of social honor. Status groups may encompass racial, ethnic, or religious groups, but can also involve social strata such as the educated classes or caste. In the Indian context, various studies have been conducted to understand the sheer consequences of social exclusion on various communities. Caste or religious prejudices among employers seriously hamper the employment opportunities to people belonging to certain castes and religion. People of certain castes also experience discrimination in the ownership of productive assets. Historically, they have been denied right to own any productive asset such as land or a business enterprise. According to NSSO data for the year 2011-12, a highest 80% of certain caste households are almost landless, owning less than 0.4 hectare land. Moreover, there are evidences of forcible occupation of land by other castes which was distributed to oppressed castes under the government's land distribution policy. Further, the quality of land distributed to such backward castes is generally poor, which adversely affects their farm productivity. As regards educational development, the children of backward castes face various forms of exclusion in schools, making education a painful process for them and in turn discouraging them from continuing their education. Various newspaper reports also show how children of such castes often face subtle forms of discouragement and ostracism that make school a painful place to be, resulting high dropout among them. There are evidences of discrimination in midday meal scheme where backward caste students are served food separately, thus seriously affecting their confidence and dignity. The location of facility such as PDS shop or Anganwadi center in upper caste settlements also results in inadequate access. Social exclusion in the provisioning of basic infrastructure within the backward class localities too adversely affects their access to such facilities. What are the consequences of social exclusion? Social exclusion causes high rate of poverty among the afflicted groups due to denied access to public resources, services and market. It reduces productive capacity. It impedes the efficient operation of market forces and restrains economic growth. Social exclusion could manifest in violence amongst affected groups. Young people who feel alienated from the society and excluded from job opportunities and decision making often turn to violence and crime as a way of feeling more powerful. Insurgencies, terrorism, extremist movements and violence, apart from other forms of agitation, are effects of social exclusion. At times, social exclusion also leads to involuntary migration, social stigmatization and marginalization by developing fear complex among the excluded. Social exclusion puts various restrictions on the excluded about their free and full participation in the economic, cultural, and political activities affecting the overall quality of life. Thank you.